I'm going to call the meeting to order, and it's the City of Apache Junction, Arizona Parks and Recs Commission on Wednesday, November the 3rd, 2021 at 7:02, or 6:02, sorry about that.
Okay.
And we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Frank, would you lead it?
Okay. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And roll call. Okay, roll call, Carol?
Here.
Commissioner Terrell Moore,
Here.
Vice Chair Judy Bory,
Here.
Commissioner D.L. Kine, excused, Commissioner Luciano Boozin, absent, Commissioner Frank Shanebeck,
here.
Commissioner Heather Moeller,
Here?
Chairman Wayne Stanton, excused. We now have a quorum of 4.
Thank you, Carol. Consent agenda. The commission may, at this time, take single action on any or all items listed as consent agenda items. Any member of the commission may remove any item from the consent agenda for discussion and cause a separate vote on the matter later in the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that the Parks and Recreation Committee accept the agenda as presented and approve the minutes from the October 6, 2021 regular meeting.
Do I have a second?
I second.
And Carol, may I have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Commissioner Heather Moeller,
Yes.
Commissioner Terrell Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Judy Bory,
Yes.
Commissioner D.L. Kine, excused, Commissioner Luciano Boozin, absent, Commissioner Frank Shanebeck,
Here, yes.
Chairman Wayne Standage, excused. Thank you. It's unanimous.
Okay. In consideration of the approval, we all did all of that? Okay, sorry, I'm not focusing here real well. Information and reports. Do any commission members have something that they've attended and they would like to share?
I do.
Okay.
I attended and volunteered at the Halloween event, and it was crazy busy, I felt. Like, I thought, oh, it'll be easy. And I just sweet-talked my mom and my husband into helping us. And I was like, you guys, COVID, people are still kind of shady. And they're like, no. I lied. I bold-faced lied. It was super busy. I felt like there was a lot of people that I haven't seen in a long time and new people. And everyone seemed to have like a good time, and everyone was really nice. But like, I had sweat and I was tired. But it was very fun.
I went to the same thing. I didn't stay as long. I didn't do any work. I was just an observer, and I got there a little early. The one thing I did observe, though, is food trucks. Are we having issues getting enough food trucks? That seems to be. Have we thought about, I don't know if this is acceptable to do this. So this is the time to just share your guys' experiences. Have a nonprofit do like a big hamburger fry or something like that at the same time at Halloween thing. Because I know the hot dog stand is short. We share that, but we can't answer that. So that was a thought I had there. Just a sharing time. We'll talk about it later, Jane. But so that was one thing. But I thought it was outstanding. Man, all the people there were like having a party, and there were a lot of people there early. I thought we'd get there early and, it wouldn't be a problem to park. Luckily, the guy was real nice and let old people park close. And so it was wild. And then I've noticed a couple other things. The medium on the trail is like doing leaps and bounds. Absolute leaps and bounds out there. This city's going to have so much to be proud of, and then they're going to get to Meridian and go west and go, oh crap. Because everything past Apache Junction looks horrible. But we have done so much as a city to improve the way we look going west on the trail. It's just outstanding. And finally, today, as we were heading home from the gym, where I'm 3 days a week now, so covering my obligations of observation there. The veterans area with the gazebo there just really looks top-notch, too. That looks like somebody's really tuned that up very awesomely. So that's what I've been observing as a commission member here.
Okay, and I did the CDC Make a Difference Day,
Oh, nice.
and on my hands and knees painting the pavers, you know, and couldn't walk the next day or the next day. But it was just really, it was fun to be out there doing something for the community, so.
I did see a picture, and I was super surprised that's how it was done. In my mind, I thought, oh, you put a stencil down, and then you just do some spray paint. That's what I thought. And when I saw a picture, I was like, oh, good thing I didn't volunteer for that.
Yeah, all the letters of all these pavers had to be re-inked, so it was quite a job. We're not,
It looked amazing.
yeah, we're not,
You did a good job.
we're not quite done yet, so there's maybe halfway done. Okay, and Terrell, did you have anything, or? I know-
Not yet,
Yeah.
but I know maybe next month some things should be coming up as I get more involved.
Okay. And we're going to the staff report. And Liz?
Thank you, Vice Chair Bory. So first item on here is the introduction of our new commissioner, Terrell Moore. And we're super excited to have Terrell as part of our commission. He is very involved in the community already, and I'm going to let him kind of introduce himself. But I've had the fortune of being able to work with him and his wife on our Centennial Committee group, and the city is a big partner in the Centennial event, and so he's very active in that. But I'm going to go ahead and let him give his experience, and then also, you know, why he's interested in this commission.
So I'm not going to go too much into it, where I'm pretty sure I can. Just so, do a little small brief of me. I moved here to Apache Junction about 2 years ago, and the purpose was to help make new opportunities within the community. As Apache Junction really is a small area, the possibilities of growth is here within the community. I am an Air Force veteran. I did 6 years in the Air Force Reserves. And within that time, I did a tour over to Kirkuk, Iraq. I stood guard in Yokota, Japan during the G6 Summit.
Oh.
That was a pretty good experience, as we were guarding not the Air Force One, but the Air Force Two, so to say, the alternative. And then I also have done other missions during my 6 years. I do hold my associate's degree over at Phoenix College in general business, whereas I went to Arizona State University and received my business administration degree. I am a member of the Superstition Rotary Club. As you can see, I do have to show it to let some know. And within that time frame, which it's been about 6 months, so far I've done about 14 hours of community service to the local community. And the reason for me being on Park and Rec's committee is really to help communicate and engage with some of the individuals around within the activities that we provide. Also to help keep our parks safe for, again, the community and visitors who come look at what we have here for Parks and Recs, and to help coordinate any future projects for our community. So I am excited to be a part of the crew, and hopefully as time prolongs, I will learn a lot so I could go ahead and give more.
We are very happy to have you, so welcome to the Parks and Rec Commission. We have a lot of things on our plate this next year with the dog park opening and our Parks and Rec master plan that we'll be working on, and many more things. In addition to Terrell being appointed to the commission, just want to congratulate Frank and Wayne Standage that they both were reappointed to the commission by the council this last meeting, well, not the last meeting, but the meeting before. And so we're very happy that they recognize the good work that our commission does, and is happy with reappointing everybody. So I think that's great for us. The next item under my staff report is just an update on parks, projects, and opportunities in the parks. So I think we touched on a few things, and I wanted to give you an update. Apache Trail Median. There has been a lot of work, so kind of remember that the original plan is that everything that was in front of the old Fry's and kind of in front of where Filiberto's and all that is, that was all done with TIF money that we were able to collect. It was a tax in the downtown area that could be used for downtown development and for beautification, different things like that. At some point, the state determined that that was not allowed anymore. And so the money that we were collecting to complete that project, to do the entire Apache Trail median, was basically taken from cities and it went back to the county. So that project stalled for many, many years, but thanks to our Public Works Director and our mayor and council that were very interested in finding a way to kind of bring that project back. We worked with Nick Blake, our former park superintendent, and he redesigned that area so that it wasn't quite as lush. It doesn't have the irrigation system that it does, but we decided to refocus the Apache Trail median to a native plant area, that it would be non-irrigated, and that we would do much of it in-house. So between the Public Works Department and the Parks Department and volunteers, we would be doing the planting. And so every year, we tackle 2 of those little sections. And so there's about 10 sections. We're on year 3. And I think, as Frank said, we've made a lot of really great progress, and there's more to come. So Public Works has started, because of that investment, the council has definitely been very supportive of that. In our budget each year is all of the granite, which is very expensive, as well as the recurbing of all of that area, so that way we can keep the granite in the median and not on the road. And then both of our teams try to fit the whole earth moving within our regular everyday schedule. So last year we were able to get that cranked out pretty early because we didn't have any terrible monsoons. This year we had some terrible monsoons, so we got a very late start. We are scrambling. I'll just kind of let you know where we're at right now to be ready. We are planning a planting this Saturday. We are only going to be able to do this, the first median. We're not complete yet with all of the earthwork that needs to be done, which isn't a huge deal. Our south team will be able to do the planting. But we'll have plenty for the volunteers that are coming out. So we have many through CDC, our Youth Advisory Council, and then other service organizations in the community will be coming out on Saturday and helping our parks maintenance supervisor and a couple of our parks guys to do the actual planting. So you'll see that kind of continue to take shape throughout November. I would guess that by the end of November, all the plants should be in and trees, and then by the middle of December, if not sooner, all of the granite and riprap will be in. And so we've been perfecting the whole process year after year. But then after that, I think it's important to know that even for native plants, they do require some care in that first year or two. So our guys do water. Even throughout the winter, it'll be a little less watering, but during the summer, it's weekly watering, and it's by hand. So they do have a small water vehicle, so it's not like it's a watering can, but it is still pretty labor intensive. And it's just a good example, though, as people talk about, well, volunteers can do this, or we can just do with what we have. When we do that, it does mean a lot of work. And so I think if you calculated all that time, we really need to think about, can we get irrigation there? Our parks maintenance supervisor is going to be experimenting with a kind of a handmade water pump with some irrigation supplies and then hooking up a small water trailer to that. We're going to try that out this year. So they've gotten really creative to find some ways. Our challenge is that it's very costly to bring the water to the median site because there's not natural connections there right now. So just wanted to give you a heads up. That is one that is very visible, and we're really excited about that one being completed. So Apache Trail median is major on that list. I know we keep bringing this up each month, but our 2 grants for Silly Mountain, some of our improvements there, so the restroom, the fencing, and the Ramada, that's everything that is going to be part of the Recreation Trails Program grant that we have been approved for. That grant, as well as the Land, Water, and Conservation Fund grant, which is funding Superstition Shadows Park improvements. That one is a whole myriad of improvements between renovating our tennis and pickleball courts, taking out that terrible old 45-year-old restroom facility and replacing it with something a little more vandal-proof, replacing our skate park fencing, lighting, changing some of that to LED in our parking lot, the parking lot resurfacing, as well as a bunch of ADA improvements and fitness equipment that's going to be going on that, on their little walking path. All of that has been approved at the state level. We are just waiting for the release of funds from the national, so it's actually coming to us through Arizona State Parks, and they get the funding through national parks, and so it's a whole national program that both of these grants funding is coming from, and so we're just waiting on some of those things to get finalized. We are hopeful that December is when that we'll know for sure that our funding has been released. We have no worries that it's not going to happen. It's just a matter of when we'll be able to use that, because a lot of it is reimbursement money and money that we kind of need to wait to have in our hands. The Superstition Shadows Park project, just as a reminder, we have a 50% match. So it's close to $1 million, well, it's a little over $1 million project altogether. And the city, and it's spread out over 2 to 3 years. So the city has budgeted enough for this first year's amount, and then next year we'll budget for the next round that we think will get completed. Silly Mountain, on the other hand, is only a 5.7% match. And so I think our commitment is a little under $5,000, and we're going to get in the ballpark of $82,000 from the grant. So super excited about that. I almost wish I hadn't told you sooner, because every single month I feel like I'm saying, yeah, we still haven't gotten it yet. But it's coming, and we have been in constant communication. State Parks has been wonderful with these grant opportunities. Additionally, there's going to be a lot more opportunities available through state parks. Our Heritage Fund money got reinstated in Arizona, and then a lot of the ARPA money, the money that was coming through the CARES Act, is going to be filtered down to cities through state parks. And most of it has to be more for if you were a heavy tourism destination that relied on that tourism for income. So let's say that you were a museum or a ski resort, that your money in your city came from that, is much more what you'd be eligible for, but there will be pockets of money that we would be eligible for. So again, while certainly our outdoors does give us some opportunities, it is not what our city relies on for their income, and those facilities don't bring in an income necessarily. So doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to apply. It just means that we aren't in the same category as some of, the Grand Canyon or some other places that really need to replenish some of that tourism dollars that happened because of CARES Act. So just wanted to share with you that little bit. Any questions on either of those? Okay, all the rest of them are in there's no new news on BLM, so I'll just share with you that we're waiting on the appraisal to come back to us, so hopefully we'll hear more on that here soon. But other than that, we don't have a lot of we're going to be talking about parks and our master plan and focusing on some of those things next. So that concludes parks. And then, so we're going to move on to Jamie, and she's going to present on events and activities. But before she does, I just wanted to share that Heather DL also volunteered. I will tell you that I was there for about half the time that they were, maybe not even. I was sore for 3 days afterwards, after all of my bowling pin, putting them up and taking them down, and putting them up and taking them down. So I can't even imagine having been there for the entire time. I don't know of any volunteer opportunity that we've ever had commissioners have to do the amount of work that was done at this event. But, and I'll let Jamie go more into this, but just a fantastic turnout of the community, and definitely exceeded, maybe Jamie was expecting this kind of a turnout, but exceeded our expectations. And I will say it is very, very, very much appreciated. And Heather, thank you for bringing more people to help volunteer, because I'm sure that's not what they were prepared for, so we owe them big time. And DL as well. I know everybody was sweating and couldn't wait for the movie to start so that we could have our games end. So I'll turn it over to Jamie.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to first recap last month. So we had a lot going on. October is the first month where we're really back to events, and we couldn't be more happy. We did have our Pretty in Pink event, and we raised over $1,400 for the National Breast Cancer Foundation. Not only is that impressive, but the amount of gift baskets and raffles that were donated either by our members or by the community, they were amazing. They were like coffee pots and like complicated coffee pots and, gourmet coffee that were donated, and anything pink, it was donated. So they put on a really stellar event. It's about an hour and a half of Zumba dancing. We did have a customer come back in and say, I really loved that polka dancing event you had. And I'm like, we don't have a polka dancing. When we realized it, I was like, some people's Zumba is other people's polka. So, but we had a really great turnout. We had about 80 people attend that event. So we're excited to be back in pink. Then we went on to, we had our mud run event. We had almost 300 people in attendance at that event. It's a very labor-intensive event, getting all those obstacles ready. We have two different routes. We have a beginner route. We have an advanced route. I think they're all advanced, but tons of fun in the mud. Families get out there. They get to have an experience that normally would cost $45 a person. And if they register early, they can do it for as low as $10 a person. And with that, they get a shirt, they get a runner's bag, they get the real feel of being able to participate in an event that is done at a competitive style, but in a recreational setting. Anybody who went out there wouldn't think that there's 300 people, because we had so many different heats that we were able to spread them out. And we do it down at the rodeo grounds, and it's just such a huge area that I feel like if we had like a drone shot, it would just look like little ants, all separated. But when you take that number all together, it was a great turnout. We had a fun time. And then that does take us to the last event of the month, which is our Halloween event. I did anticipate very large crowds based by other colleagues in different cities and their turnouts. So we really knew that we were going to need to be able to have trunks, and that we were going to have booths. And this is where we've struggled, is getting our vendors back, getting our nonprofits back, and for numerous reasons, staffing reasons on their end, time commitments on their end. So I did call, and I asked some folks, and I said, hey, we're a week away and I'm still short. I need to fulfill 5, just show up. I'll give you everything. It'll be easy. All you have to do is take money, or all you have to do is take tickets and give out candy. So I really sold it. That was gonna be easy, and I'm glad that's how I sold it, because I doubt maybe. But no, I do appreciate the support. It was absolutely necessary. We had every single staff person that could be working that day. We appreciated the volunteers, the nonprofits that came out and supported the event. We heard lots of good things. I do believe we hit at least 5,000 in attendance. We did have, we were counting folks going through the kids. We counted kids that went through the trunk or treat line. You figure in their parents and their grandparents. Like, this is the one event, like for every kid, there's like 3 people. It's mom, dad, grandparents, the aunts, everybody comes out. The costumes were phenomenal. Our costume contest, they doubled in number. Our family group and our 13 and older group, normally we get like 6 to 12 kids up there. We had a stage full, we had a front lawn full. So we know that people are ready to be back out. We still are wrapping our heads around everything that happened. We sold out of tickets in 45 minutes, and this is a 3-hour event. So it really challenged us to get creative until we could get to Walmart and get more tickets back. We recognize that there were some long lines. We recognize that, yes, we wish we would have had more food trucks. We would have loved to have more booths out there. And we know that as we put our best foot forward, they're only going to continue to grow. And it's not just going to be Halloween. Shortly after Halloween was over, we posted information about the holiday event. And so they're riding that coattails of, look how amazing this event, we're going to their next one. And we're proud of that. We're proud to say that, yep, we not only retain our families, but we're gaining other cities' families. And it sounds like soon enough we'll have housing for them to move across borders lines. But so yes, Halloween. We are super excited for that event. We're super excited to be wrapping it up. We are already planning for next year. That's how it works. It never stops. So that takes us into, and I gave you all homework last time, right? Like I said, we have so much going on. You guys need to get out to at least one thing happening in our community. Yep, you guys all did. I appreciate it. I know how hard work it is, so I'm gonna give you 2 months, okay? So you gotta pick something in November, and you gotta pick something in December. So you got 2 months to do this homework. And we do have some, the holiday event, kind of the same thing, but we can give you easier jobs, I promise. But November 6th coming up, we do have an open space cleanup, and we've designated an area that needs some care, so we'll be having volunteers going out and cleaning up that area. Then that evening, because we always have to have, lots of things going on, that evening we have a concert in the park. We have One Lane Highway performing that evening.
Jamie, could I just add, so the open space cleanup is the desert cleanup that we did in the spring. We're going to be doing those twice a year. Jeff is working with a group that has about 100 kids planning to come out and help with that, so that's really awesome. Yep. It's at the same time and day purposely as our Apache Trail median planting. We're going to have probably 150 volunteers between the various projects that are going out that day. So I just wanted to mention those are 2 separate projects that are going on.
In the month of November, our flag football has started for our youth leagues. Adult golf has started. Adult pickle leagues will be started. We also have a pickleball tournament that happens towards the later part of November. We are not having our wellness event this year for the various reasons I mentioned before. Our wellness event is 80% vendor driven. That is the purpose of that event, is to support them, but they just don't have the ability to commit. And we have a few, but not enough to make that a real event, to make it what it needs to be. So instead, we're doing a wellness week, and it will be starting November 15th. And that entire week we'll be offering all kinds of wellness classes that are free to the community. There are all kinds of different topics. And then towards the end of the week, we'll have an opportunity for membership discounts at 15% off. So memberships will be discounted 15% the 18th, 19th, and 20th. This is a big deal because it used to be only on the wellness event could they get this deal. So everybody came in on Saturday, and it helped our vendors. It was very labor intensive, if you can imagine doing that many transactions in one day. But this is spreading it out and giving folks a little bit more opportunity to come and take advantage of that discount. So we're really excited about that.
And to give you an idea, so tell me if I'm wrong, Jamie, but I feel like some of our high years were like bringing in $42,000 in memberships on that day. Versus, and I don't know what that compares to, but like a few $1,000s maybe a day or.
Pre-COVID, we would do the revenues that we would normally do over 30 days in a matter of 8 hours. So that kind of gives you that picture of what that looked like. So it became also a big renewal time because everybody's memberships then would end at around relatively the same time. So, so again, that's kind of why we're given a little bit more time to get us back on track. So we're looking forward to this year's, but even more so when we might take this time to really look at the event. Can we vamp it up? Can we do some things different? What does our community need from us in that area? And also look at our partner agencies, because we don't need to have 5 wellness events happening through our community. So we're going to take some time while we have that before 2022. Also in November, what else do we got? We have Thanksgiving. We're really excited for that because we won't have anything on Thanksgiving. But we will have a Black Friday sale because everybody does. So again, memberships, but just 1 month memberships will be, you can get a month discounted at 50%. That is a great time for people who are not sure. It captures some of our winter residents who maybe haven't seen it yet, haven't been there yet. So give us a try for 1 month. It's super cheap, but the value is amazing. So that's our Black Friday special. So that is November. I do want to share with you our dog park citizen group and where we're moving on the dog park with more on the programming side. So I'm not the construction side of
So
it.
we'll do that when we go to the dog park.
Oh,
I added
do
you
it.
to that. Yep, I
That's
forgot to
right.
tell you, I added you to that one.
Okay. So also in November for programming, we have skateboard lessons coming up. We're excited for that. Our line dancing classes have taken off. We have 2 different instructors. We have line dancing, I think almost 3 days a week or 2 days a week that folks can register for, and it's done really well. So again, we have a lot of activities, and I encourage you guys can find them on Facebook, you can find them through our website, and then you can always just send me an email and ask me, and I will be happy to share, so.
Thanks, Jamie. And I think also to Frank's point, I think it's a great question, all of our event committees, so FOTS, they're all really struggling to get the number of vendors to be there. And Jamie shared it. So some of them are not ready to come back because of COVID, and they might not be ready to be part of big group activities. But a vast majority just don't have the staffing to be able to run their regular business and then come and set up for a whole day of extra stuff. And so we're all really struggling, and I would really recommend, as you look at what some of these other events are doing, as Terrell and I are on the Centennial Committee, everybody's really hard on, well, you got to get, 100 vendors or whatever it is. It's going to take a while to get back to that. So just definitely sharing that with you so that you're prepared as you look at other things that are going on. This event also, so Jeff and Jamie did want to take it a little slow. So this is our first big event after 4th of July. We really needed to spread things out. And so we were a little cautious about having too many food trucks, too many different lines. And so we've really kind of spread things out. We have a wonderful list of food trucks. I mean, we can easily get more. And I think Jeff as well, after that day, wish we'd had double the amount of food trucks that we had. So definitely some of those things that they're talking about.
And I will comment also on the food trucks. We did hear that they are behind in their permitting and renewing their permits. So some of them are cautious to come out, even if they've told that they could come out. We are also, people aren't sure that it's going to be worth their time.
Right.
So when I can put on an event and be able to turn around and tell them our last event had 5,000 attendees, that certainly helps. But I'm also competing with our neighbors who had 16,000 attendees on an event. So we struggle based on location. We are Pinal County. We can't accept Maricopa permits. And we have to be careful too that we have established food trucks to make sure that we're not having, that it's all health code regulations and whatnot. But that is growing in numbers, and like I said, it only takes one. Our poor food trucks, they can't wait to come back for the next one, but they're probably pretty exhausted.
They're pretty tired. So just to clarify, so the new food truck code allows Pinal County to accept Maricopa County Health Department permits, but our licensing is separate. And so they have to have a separate business license, which is very simple to get. The health department stuff does transfer from one county to the next. That's the new state law. So, but again, everybody's a little behind with lack of staff and a lack of some other things. So, Vice Chair Bory, that concludes our report.
Okay, we go to number 7, and that's old business.
Okay, so we just have a couple of quick things on construction. We are still on track for probably wrapping up construction the end of January. That's what we've been all along. There's been a little lag in some activity this last week, so if you've driven by and wondered why there's not a lot going on, they have struggled a little bit. They had, unfortunately, a death in their workforce, not at all related to work, a separate thing. And our construction group is a very small, tight group, and so they don't feel that they're going to be too far behind schedule. They're able to pick up that time, but they have had a little, some stuff happen this week that had them so that they're not out there these last few days. So if you kind of drive by this week and wonder why nothing's happened, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing going wrong. They just had a few little setbacks. But they still feel very confident that, our end of January, beginning of February is still our time for our substantial completion, and that's still our target for when we want to be doing some kind of a grand opening, somewhere between Centennial and Lost Dutchman Marathon. So that's construction. I'm going to let Jamie kind of share a little bit about operational. So she leads up the citizen focus group, and she's going to share a little bit about what they're doing, and then we'll wrap up with the rules that we would like to get your guys' input on today.
So our citizen focus group, we meet once a month. I think we're meeting next Monday is the next one. We have a really good group. We have some of our youth who are coming. One of them just adopted a dog, and so he's very excited, and they have some really valuable insight to the dog park. But right now, we are talking about volunteer opportunities and how they can help with that. I think that when people see the grass and the fence, then it'll be easier to attract some of those volunteers. Because we did hear a lot like, build a dog park and I will volunteer. So we'll be working on what that looks like. We are also talking different programming ideas and opportunities. What will a soft, grand opening look like? We are working also with Paws and Claws. They are super excited. I got to meet with them. They're excited about adoption events, vaccination events. And I think what people don't realize is that they love and really take care of their animals down at that shelter like they are their own pets. And this gives them an opportunity to have their volunteers to bring down their dogs because we have 3 areas assigned, and one of them is a smaller that we are going to use for programming types of, programming. And so one of the opportunities is they'll be able to bring down these dogs and really exercise them in grass, exercise them in an environment where there's other dogs, where they get to see them, what kind of dog are they going to be. So they're very, very excited about that. We've talked about being able to reserve out, the possibility of reserving out that smaller section to our group. So maybe you don't have a dog that fits in with the general dog population in a dog park, but they still want to run. They still want to have that experience. So for, a small amount, you can reserve your own dog park for an hour or have a pup party or, but we are working through all of those things. The focus group is helping with that. They've helped with the signage. We're looking at different opportunities for donations, either for operationals or for like in memoriams, or you have a wonderful pet and you want to do something in the name of your pet. So we're working on different options for that. So.
And then I just wanted to remind this group, so the focus group came out of our discussions that we wanted to continue that citizen group. So we've had a lot of the people that started off with just where it's going to go and went and visited and gave us a lot of feedback on amenities. Many of them aren't part of, they didn't continue. They're just excited that we're getting a dog park. And we've got a lot of newer members and other different interest groups that are attending. So we'll be bringing back some of their final stuff to you guys. Today we're going to be sharing the rules and regulations that have been gone over just for your final input before we start finalizing this. But I also wanted to mention, and I just lost my whole train of thought. Oh, yeah. So when we discussed fees a while back ago, right from the very beginning, back in the January, February timeframe, I know a couple of you had mentioned, do we need to add fees for the dog park? Do we need to have some different things? And what we had discussed was that we already have an open space area fee, and we already have a Ramada fee, and those are the types of things that are going to be there. So we already have the fee structure in place based on your guys's already the existing fee structure that we created. We're going to start there, and then we'll look to see how it's being received. Is it does it really cost that amount of money? And then our next fee study, we can kind of take a look at that. But I just wanted to remind you that that was one of the things that we had talked about a while back ago, that we wanted to have that ability to charge fees for private reservation of something. We will be talking through, though, in what way are we going to do that so it doesn't take away from the general population utilizing it. So just wanted to kind of share that again. Any questions on that part, or on anything that Jamie has shared before we move on to rules and regulations?
Just a little bit, excuse me. We run into the problem with BLM where we're restricted. Are we restricted anyway by Pinell County?
So unfortunately, this property is also on BLM. So the county parcel it's a BLM patent, which means it doesn't ever have to go up for renewal. There's no chance it's ever going to change. So we do have commercial limitations. It doesn't mean we can't have, so again, we can't rent it out to somebody for strictly commercial purposes, but we can have vendors come to the park. We can have them come to our events. As long as anything that we raise from that goes back into the park, and truly it would. I mean, our cost for the park, we would never be raising so much money that it's not going right back into the facility. So as long as whatever we make goes back into the facility, we're good on all of that. Great question. Okay, so we're going to move into rules, and that is in your packet. Okay, so early on with this citizen group, we had shared, we did have one of our park rangers volunteered to be a part of our citizen group, Aaron Purcell. He's been with us for a really long time. He's a part-time ranger with us, and then he also works for Maricopa County, more in a different capacity with probation and some other things. But he has a huge interest in dogs and has been to many dog parks. He owns many dogs, and so was tasked in the department with researching other dog park rules. We've gone and visited all the other parks and looked at rules, talking with our insurance company, talking about what are the rules that we wanted to have. And so we started off our rules and regulations that we shared. We started off with what are the ones that were common in every single city. So those are all on the list. And then we added ones that Aaron and other park rangers or other dog users thought, so we added other ones that were on several cities' lists, but not everybody's, that we also thought sounded like a good idea. And so we started with all of those, and this citizen focus group has seen this several different times and weighed in. Our animal control officers, in particular Officer Sheehan, he attended one of our very first meetings to review rules and to be a part of all of that. So pretty much these have been looked at by all of our dog owners, all of our citizen group, our rangers, and our animal control office. And then, like I said, these are all things that most other cities have as common practices. So everything in black, I'd say it's pretty widely utilized. So if it's not every city, it's almost every city has them. We put in red a few things that just needed to be kind of considered. So at the very beginning, this might just get changed a little bit based on what our city attorney says we need to add up there. So one of the things that I thought was weird is that no dog treats, food, and human food are not allowed. So I can't bring in my own lunch into the dog park because obviously dogs are attracted to food and it causes issues. It can cause fights. We are going to have dog obedience classes, though. We're going to have programs where there is going to be food. So again, just having something so that way we're not limited. So it might just say, unless permission from the director or their designee, that kind of thing, like we do elsewhere. A couple of the other potential ads, I would say this one has already is probably 99.9% for sure going to go in. So spayed or neutered dogs, and it will say recommended. It's not an easy thing to, having people bring their papers is probably not realistic. But saying that it's recommended so that way we can kind of, encourage that in our education. And then these are items that we probably aren't going to add until we have dog agility equipment, different things like that. So we don't have those features, so there's no sense in adding it. And even once we do, we already have things about, watching your children and them not, excuse me, using all the or playing or running. These would probably be more simpler signage specific to an area where it's happening. So we just would love to get any feedback that you have. If any of these look odd and you'd like to kind of know what the thinking is behind it, we can talk about it today. We certainly can talk about it again in December. Just so that you know, nothing in this has to change our code. So, when we've gone and done our code changes for rules, those are some of our big meatier, like the things that our rangers can write a citation for. This falls into the category of other rules and regulations. So at the MGC, we have all kinds of rules in the fitness area and at the center. At the skate park, there's lots of skate park specific rules when you're there. You have to follow those, otherwise the code that you're not following is basically other rules and regulations as defined by the director or the staff and park rangers. We like to have them posted though, so that people are very aware of what it's going to look like. Additionally, this is going to get, Jamie's team is also working on educational materials, handouts, our volunteer group that might be our friends of the dog park that some of them, their job in the first early months is to be handing out the rules, explaining different things to people, helping to be somebody who does questions and answers. So anyways, whatever feedback you might have.
So,
Liz, what about a sign-in sheet for a person, to sign in with and the type of dog they have?
So
Would you?
we don't have that on our list. I don't know of other cities that do that. It's kind of hard to maintain there. But do you have like a reason that you're thinking?
Well, I think sometimes if you have a problem, that you'll be able to track back to see, who was in the park.
Have you seen that at other dog parks by any chance? Because we could certainly look into that.
I don't think I have.
I think you're looking for some accountability. I'm wondering, do we plan any video surveillance of the dog park?
So we don't have cameras there now, but absolutely, I think that's a great thing. So we're working on cameras in other places that are not up to speed.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
There's been a lot of advances in the last 5-10 years and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
The price isn't crazy.
Yep.
Can monitor through wireless.
Yeah. So that's what we have at the skate park and at Superstition Shadows Park when Wi-Fi and fiber is working. So that's our only downfall. But there's also game cameras, things that you can come back and at least look at things after the fact if there's a problem. But certainly we can look at that and see if anybody has any experience with that. I think it would just be very hard to maintain and to enforce. So who's going to require them to do it? It's not going to be staffed. That is another whole level of liability that none of the municipal dog parks are staffed that we have reached out to or looked at. I'm not saying there aren't any anywhere, but the vast majority, 90% of dog parks are open just in general to the public.
well, do they have a complaint box?
We can certainly add that. That's not, so what we rely on, so there is a phone number handy on on our signage. So our rangers are available from before park opening until midnight every night. So parks close at 10. And the number that's listed goes directly to the park ranger now. So a park ranger would be notified immediately. So we prefer somebody to call right away and say, hey, I saw this happening, and a ranger can go there. But a complaint box or a comment box, because they might have other things they want to share, is a great idea of another way of doing that.
Okay. I was looking actually at Bulletin 3, dogs must be licensed. So let's say hypothetically that there are individuals who don't know the resources around. Is there within the pamphlet or within the first few days of being open, can we put that a good location or just a resource so individuals would know where to go to?
Yeah, I think that Jamie's group is actually, so since Paws and Claws is part of the citizen group, even, at the grand opening or even our soft opening, them being there to be able, so again, I don't know all the details of what goes into licensing. If they can do it on site, I think they can. But those would be great opportunities, so that way they can get licensed. It is pretty common for most dog owners know in every city that's required for them to be licensed. But I think that'd be a great way of incorporating all of that into our opening. And for sure, on our literature and on our signage, we could list how they can get those done pretty simply.
We will also develop a marketing campaign prior to the dog
great.
park opening, and it will be like a know before you go. It won't be all of this at the same point, but tackling the things that we think might be issues. So it might be, your dog will need to be licensed, here's how you go about getting your dog licensed. And to the point of like a comment box, one of the things that is, and I didn't even think about it until you brought it up, we can easily create a QR code that takes them to our generic email
idea.
address. So as we open, everybody's going to want to tell us what we should have done, what we need to do, or how to better it, right? So there could be some temporary signage that says, you know, to show your appreciation, or if you want to share your comments or suggestions, please click here, and everybody has a cell phone, and it can be a QR code that directs them to a website. Anything that is left out there to the elements can be taken. It can be, if you're using paper and the weather turn, like, I would like, it's not anything that I know of that we have at other parks. So I would hate to, everything is technology, right? It's all virtual. So I think, you know, so having a phone number, having a QR code, I think that we can develop some ways that they can communicate with us without us actually having to be there all the time.
Also, I think it just brings a good point of if people don't have the means. So our Paws and Claws Center is so amazing. I mean, they do free, you know, reduce the prices. They'll do free vaccinations and free licenses and stuff when they're trying to clear the kennel. So they do a whole lot of different things like that. And I think just partnering up for that, for some of that early on time frame would probably be really helpful. As one of the other things that Jamie's group is working on is corporate partners and donors. And so that might be something that somebody wants to sponsor. You know, they might want to be a $5,000 level sponsor, and their money is just sitting in a pot waiting to give anybody who can't afford vaccination or license the money to do that. So great suggestions. Anything else on there that is odd? Things that popped out to me, and Aaron was super helpful. I'd love for him to come one day maybe and answer any more questions that you might have. Things like not grooming your dog out in the park and throwing away its hair. Like, it was like, what? Like, why would we put that in our rules? But I guess it's a problem in a lot of areas. And then when I went and looked, it was actually on a lot of signage and a lot of rules that people had.
Some breeds just shed that much and
Yep.
you take them to the park and you got gobs of hair. Like,
Right, right.
It doesn't sound natural, but
Right. Limit of 3 dogs per visit. So, you know, so Heather can only bring 3 dogs with her. She can't bring 4 or 5. Again, I thought that was a little odd, and then I went and looked, and it's like every city has that rule. So obviously something has happened over time that they felt that was necessary. They also copy off of each other, just like all of us do. But it seems to be a pretty common thing. That's about the extent of what people can really control and be able to handle while they're there. We really debated about children in the park. We had a lot of folks that wanted there to be no children because it was they felt it was unsafe, or if a dog really did get
Or get
whatever,
ruly.
that it was a problem. And so I think we settled on that children under 12 must be accompanied by an adult and with strict supervision. So people just need to know that you're in a place where dogs are not predictable. And so again, it's kind of a use it at your own risk. And we just really, part of our education campaign will be letting people know, you know, what is safe and not safe to do. And how should kids, having some educational opportunities for kids to learn how to be around dogs that they're strangers of. That's another important thing. So those are some of the ones that were a little bit, you know, odd that we kind of had to really work through early on. Anything else that you guys?
There'll be disposal stations type
Yeah,
of thing,
so-
and bags or
Yep,
something.
multiple throughout the whole venue. There will be the bag stations and litter, you know, pooper, scooper things that people can use that will be kept there on site. So yeah. Anything else? Okay.
I think it looks good.
If you see anything on there or you have a question that comes to you later, don't hesitate to email me or call me and just ask. You know, I'm happy to share with you or Jamie what we're thinking, and that concludes, yes, that concludes our dog park update. And Judy, I know it's not listed, but you'll just introduce the next line item under old business.
Oh, okay. Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
Thank you.
Liz.
So I believe we've shared with you as this has gone, been, you know, throughout the process. The Planning and Zoning Commission has seen a really extensive version of this report. The City Council several different times heard a very extensive 44-slide presentation. What I have gotten for you today is really just the Parks and what is relevant to Parks and Recreation with our new state land. And we'll stop calling it that. We've been calling that forever, state trust land. It's Superstition Vistas is the name of the whole area. And I know this is a really little map, but the idea is just so you kind of get an idea. This whole thing was designated long ago as a Superstition Vistas like planning area. Identified 20-some years ago. So this is a planning area that, you know, there's Florence over here. Pinal County was very involved in this 20-some years ago in talking about this. But the part that the state has released right now is discussing right now is this whole section. And then it's broken up further into the 4 square miles here in the light orange that is the auction property that they auctioned to the highest bidder, which was D.R. Horton. And D.R. Horton then is basically selling half of that to Brookfield, and so they're partners in this whole agreement. The dark orange is the retained property. And so this whole section is comparable in size to Mesa, Chandler, Tempe, and Gilbert combined. And then as a reminder to everybody, it is not public land. So just because so the state of Arizona owns it, and while it's managed by a public entity, it's not technically public land that anybody can just go on or it has a right to. It is land that is owned in trust and managed by the state of Arizona Land Department. And the money that is either received from the sale or from the holding of this property goes towards education in the state of Arizona. So a large portion of it goes to elementary and secondary education. I think a portion of it goes to more advanced education, college, and things like that. So I think it's just really important for people to understand. It's like a private landowner. They are waiting to get the biggest bang for their buck because they are only going to get to sell it one time. And so they want to and they did an amazing job. I think it started at something like $60-some million, and it sold for I'm going to say it wrong, $265 million, I think is what it was. So they got a great deal. D.R. Horton and Brookfield are the two partners in this, and you have this information in your packet. Whoops. Just to kind of understand where this is in context of the rest of the city, so this is the freeway. Here's Idaho that comes straight down, here's Meridian that comes down, and here's Ironwood right through the middle of the project. So from Ironwood, this is a 1 mile radius of what's out there. This is what's 2 miles of a radius from the very center. And so again, the dark orange here is our auction property. It's the property that the developers have purchased and that they are working to develop as quickly as they can. And the rest of it is the retained property. So whoever got this had to also plan for the development of the whole retained area. That's part of the agreement with the state that D.R. Horton made. And so all of the documents and all the things that were determined in the council meeting in early October were basically deciding that, or sharing what was going to be some of the really general plans for this light yellow, but really specifically what is going to be happening today. This retained area, the state still owns it, and basically, right now, the way the agreement reads is that they can't sell it for 7 years. So that way, D.R. Horton and Brookfield have the greatest opportunity to develop their area. Now, if they get done really fast, I bet you that, and they want to put out an application or talk to the state, there's a good chance they might do it sooner. But as of right now, the rest of this retained area cannot be sold off. I think it's 7 years is what they told us. The whole site, the retained and the auction property, is 8,090 acres. This is what it looks like right now. If you went out there today, these are some of the snapshots of it. The auction property, the 4 square miles, that's a little over 2,700 acres. This is what it looks like if you were to drive out there right now. It's pretty much nothing. And then the retained property, that stuff all around here, is 5,300 acres. And again, here's some images of it. D.R. Horton so they basically split this in half. Both of these properties have approximately the same usable space was their agreement, which is why this is a little odd. There's some kind of you can't really develop on some of these areas, and so part of their agreement was to make it as close to a 50-50 split of usable areas possible. You might hear D.R. Horton's part called Development Unit 1, so DU1 if you're in a council meeting or something else is going on. Brookfield is Development Unit 2. Oh, is that wrong? Oh, how weird. Okay. Oh, no, that's right. Sorry. I got this backwards. So this is the D.R. Horton side, Development Unit 1. This is sort of an idea of their plans for their parks and their so basically just a little land map. The orange is commercial on the normal intersections that would normally have commercial activity on them. The greens are different kinds of parks or community parks. So smaller parks, you can see that they have a little bit bigger sized parks here. And then a lot of this is trail network that's also connecting a whole lot of space in here. This side is Development Unit 2, so this is the Brookfield section. They've done things a little differently. They have 3 really bigger sized parks and then a whole bunch of small pocket parks all throughout. So they have a lot more little parks. They're just a little bit smaller in size. And then they have chosen to do these really larger areas. All 3 of these are designated to be public park or to have public components to them. And so we will have public parks in a lot of this area. And then the main trail coordinator is a main public trail that is connected to a lot of their little smaller trails within their community, but eventually will also connect up to the CAP trail when the next development units come about. This is their trails master plan, and so you can so again on your map you can kind of look to see, and as you look at this a little bit more and have questions, we'll certainly be talking about this more, but this is just a general overview of how their major trail connectivity is happening. When we've gotten a chance to look at some of their pre-application submittals, they have gobs. Everything is connected by a little trail. It's either connected by sidewalks or trails so that people can get all around their community using trails. So we're super excited. It is exactly all the things that our active transportation plan is asking for. And then there's a lot of larger connectivity to some really, really good areas. Vice Chair Bory, did you have a question?
We'll be responsible for those parks, correct?
So we are working on the maintenance agreement with that. So some of those things have not been finalized yet. We have truly barely, we've been a part of all the meetings to talk about what some of the wishes and desires are, but until about a month before the council meeting, we really didn't know what their true vision is. So keep in mind, these are 2 competitors that are going to have 2 areas. So they've held all of their hopes and dreams for this really close to the vest. They want to be the best development. They want the residents to come to them to buy houses. And so they're not sharing with each other. And in order to share with us, they have to share with each other. So we're just now getting started. And one of the things I wanted to kind of share, so Brookfield is probably going to be the quickest at getting a public facility opened up and in the ground. Both properties are starting on the south end of their property, and then they're going to build down here, and then they're going to move north. Brookfield is the only one that already has their for sure, like, conceptual ideas of this first park, and we have just gotten to see that. All 3 parks have lakes. They are considered lakes for non-potable water, so the entire property, all the common areas, all the trees on the streetscape, everything is going to be irrigated using a whole recharge system. So the sewer plant that's closer up to AJ, the sewer plant will be sending water, and it'll get stored in these lakes. Well, it'll get treated to be non-potable, then it'll be stored in the lakes. These are not swimming lakes, by the way, though, still. It will be safe for lakes. And then that water will be pumped out and used for all of the irrigation. So it'll be a fraction of the cost. We will be reusing water instead of, right now, we're using water from, regular, it might as well be tap water, in some areas. Some areas are non-potable out here. But they have an excellent green plan for this area here.
Is it a riparian?
So I don't know exactly. It doesn't look like this one here is a whole riparian like Gilbert has, but some of these other ones might have that later on. It is a really nice lake with a great walking track around it. This first lake is not going to have fish in it. It's not going to be for fishing, but some of the other ones likely will be. So we know what's happening conceptually in this one. I attended a pre-bid meeting today so they will go out for a construction manager at risk who's going to help to design the park. They will work closely with the city and Brookfield and the designer. So the designer of everything for Brookfield, you can't see it now, is Swaback Design. The city is going to end up, they're giving these areas to the city when they're all done, but we are not the one purchasing it. We're not the one building it. We're going to have a say in it, but the developers will have a big say. They know what they want as amenities for their community. One of the exercises that we have today and in the next few months is sharing with them what are the things we want to see in this area. In looking at some of their ideas, many of theirs are the same things that we're looking for, that we want for our community, that will be for public. The other part to keep in mind is that their parks are going to have some private areas. So if you are familiar at all with Eastmark, the Eastmark pool is not a City of Mesa pool. It is a community association pool. There's a pass to get in, if somebody swipes their key card to go through the door. But the Great Park is City of Mesa. And so the public can use that Great Park and the Orange Monster and all the other great amenities. So it'll be very, very similar here. We will work at ways to blend those together, but to make it clear what's private and what's public. The city and the Community Facilities District, the property tax that is being given just to this community can only be used for the public parks, and only the people living in this, or I'm sorry, it's not the property tax. The tax when they sell that home, those people are paying for those amenities to be there. Anything that is using Community Facilities District money has to be public, and so Joel Stern, our city attorney, Leslie DeRetch, our finance director, all of those people who know much more than me about finances are very involved in that part of it. Our staff will have a seat at the table, though, in selecting the construction team that's doing this and then being a part of the design. I do want you guys to be aware that this is not one that is going to come back to us for master plan and that we're making all the decisions, because this is a developer-led thing. I will be sharing with you as you go, and if we have things that are red flags, we'll certainly talk about them and share them. But at the end of the day, this is a master planned community, and there is a little different process that goes through that. Naming is going to be happening, as they look at their marketing and the brand that they're looking for. So far in everything we've seen conceptually, and it's not all of it is really, some of it was shared at the council meeting, but a lot of it is kind of kept a little bit close to the vest. It's really cool. I mean, I think we don't have to have any doubt that it's going to be top notch and a really great thing. The city is only committing a maintenance cost that is equal to what we currently maintain our facilities at as far as money goes. Everything above and beyond that they want to do is going to be contributed by the HOA and by the association. And so At the end of the day, we don't know yet if it's all gonna be one contract that maintains the whole thing. You know, there's a look there that we want to make sure that it's uniform and that it looks the same. So we'll be kind of looking at that, and I'll be sharing that with you as I know more. Whoops, we talked about the trails plan. Open space master plan, this is, again, just another little bubble map of some of the different parks and other things that they're looking at doing. This is what their open space areas are going to be looking at. You know, they're going to be using a lot of native, a lot of things that are part of the regular desert landscape. The parks are going to have a lot, so don't get too caught up on that this is sand. Some of these are just snapshots of other areas, and it's just really looking at what are some of the features that they're going to be putting into the parks. There will be quite a bit of grass. There is a linear park. You know, we're a little concerned about that, but I think with the non-potable water solution, that is certainly something they want to sell. You know, the whole idea is that this is an experience and a thing that they're selling. This first park is supposed to be scheduled to be open in September of 2023. So basically 2 years, little less than 2 years from now, they would be opening the first one, because that's when they plan on having their first homes being open for models and people starting to buy them. And they want so the neatest thing that I heard in the meeting that I had this morning was that the number one thing that's going to sell their houses is their parks and their amenities. And that just tells us how important parks and recreation is in our community. You know, you guys have always known that. We have been very fortunate to have a council that has always been very supportive of Parks and Rec and knows its value, as well as city management. So it's just really nice to hear from other people. I think that's the end of this. Again, still kind of a very general view. So just want to know if you had any questions. We're going to be talking a little bit about existing facilities and gaps in our next item, but wanted to know if you had any questions on the state land stuff.
I have a question about, there's a lot of parks, like these little green dots are amazing on this plan. So are some of them considered parks even though they're just kind of like a grass field due to like water retention?
Yeah, so one of the things, so there is a whole linear park system that's going to be along Ironwood as well as along whatever this middle road is going to be. They're actually pushing a lot of their retention to these linear parks so that they'll have one big trail system, and it'll be broken up with retention areas so that there's a lot less retention ponds throughout the whole complex. But they are going to be similar in that way. Some of them will just be a grassy area with benches and shade. Some of them might be 3 or 4 fitness stations, and some of them, you know, might not be more than this area this area here. The idea is that everybody would have within walking distance some green space or some shaded areas, encouraging people to walk from one little park to the next. One of the planners was sharing, they live in Eastmark, their family, their kids, you know, they get bored of the same playground equipment. And so it's like they do that for half an hour and then they walk, you know, a quarter of a mile down the road and they're doing something totally different. So they're all going to have a lot of little different things. And as we get to see that, I think that'll be another good thing to share with you guys so you can kind of see. But yeah, some of it's going to be, you know, not a whole lot at all. And I would definitely recommend going and just driving through Eastmark because
what I was thinking. I'm like, I'm out of the loop.
Because it's going to be very similar in a feel to that. Okay. Any other questions? Any concerns or things that you're worried about?
I do have a concern. Traffic. So is that something that's still being looked at in the sense of as the attraction's going to be within that area, that they're going to maybe open up another lane?
So part of the entire development is a traffic plan, a whole traffic study had to be done. That's all been part of this master planning. So what you don't see here is the transportation master plan because it wasn't part of our stuff. But they have a whole thing. So part of the development is making Ironwood, to expand some of these areas. The 24 is going to be opening up way farther down south. So a lot of that Queen Creek and Santan Valley traffic is already going to start getting rerouted by the time there's actually residents there. So keep in mind that residents won't be there for 2 years at all. Like the very first little trickle of residents is 2 years away. In the meantime, all of that infrastructure is getting built. And so none of you probably live in Santan Valley, but if you know people who do, I would say it's going to be a little more painful before it gets better, but the end is in sight. So part of this whole thing is expanding the roads. That is required to be done. And as the growth happens, there will be even more expansion of roads and things like that. So yes, but it's going to be more painful before it gets better, I think.
How far is Queen Creek from there?
So I don't know the exact mileage, but the 24, I think, is on either Fry or something like that, is about like Fry. And Queen Creek is now annexed all the way to the 24 on one side, and we're annexed all the way to the 24 on the other side. So that whole retained property that we're showing is our city limits now. So we just moved from Elliott to approximately Fry, I think is what they're saying. But it's where the 24 is going to be.
See, I'm thinking about the shopping and, how do we draw that group of people to shop in Apache Junction?
So
That's going to be,
The reality is they're not. Mesa's going to be closer. Queen Creek's going to be a little bit closer until that area grows up. But until we get these houses and we get residents, we will never have more shopping. So while we might not have them right away, once we have those, so it's 11,000 homes, that's what starts to make somebody want to build. So all those little commercial areas, once it's built out, then those commercial areas will fill up, and then a new development unit will come. There are some small things that will attract them into the downtown. We're not building another multi-gen center. We're not building another multi-use trail system. The rodeo grounds in Prospector Park, there are things that people are going to travel, the superstitions and all that. We want to make that desirable for them to come our way to this side of town. And I think that's something that the city is really well aware of, and economic development-wise, they are working on that. So I feel confident that people have those same concerns and are working through that. The other thing is that what we found through COVID, and that nobody is seeing any kind of decrease in, is online sales. So because of the Wayfair law tax, they made it so that wherever you purchase your Amazon stuff, whatever city that's in, a tax now, you'll see that on your receipt, that there's part of, if that were to be broken up, the city receives some of that. We had a better tax year than we ever did during COVID because everybody stayed home and purchased online. So now people don't want to drive all the way to Home Depot, and out there, they're still not going to want to drive that far. So we still are going to get a lot of revenue from online sales tax, as well as state shared revenue for the amount of people that are there, and county shared revenues for each individual person that is there. Actually brings us revenue and money. Great questions. And again, if you ever want to just one-on-one talk about it, or have thoughts, or want to know if I know stuff, I'm happy to help, and I'm happy to share with you somebody else who might probably know a little more than me. And that concludes that item for me. And Vice Chair Bory, I think we moved to new business on page 2. On page 2.
Yeah, number 8.
Yes.
Next is new business regarding the new master plan for the Parks and Rec Department. And Liz, will you please present that?
Yes. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this today. So as we said, the Parks and Rec master plan process, these first few months, I really just want us to start talking about what we already have. What are some of the gaps in our community? And then also, another big piece that I shared with you last meeting was that not only are we going to focus on what is our plan for new facilities, but how do we continue? One of our general plan goals is to maintain and, renovate and bring back up to snuff all of our existing parks. We have some 35-year-old facilities and 40-year-old facilities that really need a lot more care. And, we have a very limited budget each year. We share that each year. There's a certain pot of money, we probably have a couple $1 million worth of projects, and we got to find about $300,000 worth that we can do that year. And so we prioritize what is the biggest need, what is the biggest safety problem, if it's something that is a hazard or, you know, we certainly focus on aesthetic things, but safety is probably, you know, the first thing that we do. So this master plan process is going to also focus on what do we need to be doing in our existing facilities. But today, we are just going to talk about what we currently have, our inventory of what we have in our parks. Well, I shouldn't say parks, our parks and facilities, and where we see a few gaps that we want to add to the list. Because today's discussion is also going to help us with this really quickly moving project with the South Parks. So again, we learned about a month ago what the real ideas are, and this is our chance to say, that's fine for Park 1, what you're doing, you know, that is okay. I mean, it's all good stuff, but we want to make sure that we're getting a big splash pad, or, you know, whether it's a miniature golf course, or if it's a whatever that's out there that the community wants, we need to be able to be pushing for that early, because they're working on this park for this year. But by the time that one is built, they'll already be halfway through the next one. And so they're going to move super fast, and we have to be ready with what is it that we want. So today is just a discussion for you guys. All these things we're talking about this month, November and December, will then be pulled together as stuff that we're going to start sharing with the public and getting public input on. So this is your chance right now. So this list of amenities is this is part of our infrastructure improvement plan, which is an entire document that the city has to update. I think it's about every 5 years, but it drives our development fees and our development plan. So when there's new homes, new whatevers, this infrastructure improvement plan is what we already have, and what a citizen could expect to have is based on the number of amenities we currently have. This is just a good resource for us to start to see. This has a good list of what we currently have. So Ramadas single are like really little, maybe there's one picnic table underneath them. There's a few of those at Prospector Park. Small group Ramadas, we've got them at Prospector, we have them at Superstition Shadows Park. The large group Ramadas are things like at Flatiron, the great big Ramada that's there. We have several of them at Prospector Park and Superstition Shadows Park. And then this is the myriad of amenities. So shuffleboard courts, horseshoe pits. I'm not going to go through all of these. But this inventory is what we currently have right now. And we just want you to see that part of it. I don't know why security fencing is an odd one that's in here, but just so you know. And then, for whatever reason, not on this list are all of our indoor amenities. So I don't know why they're not part of the infrastructure improvement plan, but I've listed them here. So we have an indoor recreation and fitness center. We have an indoor climbing wall. Some of these are part of that same center, but when we start looking at the standards across the nation and standards in the state of Arizona, these are going to be some of the things that we're going to compare ourselves to. What do other cities have? And there are standards that the National Rec and Park Association has put out that for every, let's say, for every 50,000 people, you have one multi-generational recreation center. Well, right now we have 42,000, well, actually 30, according to the last census, we only have 38,000 or 39,000 people. We have one multi-gen center. So until we have 100,000 people in our community, that would be when we should, you know, par up and have another multi-gen center. There's a certain amount of pools that you have for every X amount of people in your community. We will share that with you next time as your next step. Today is really just more about what do we hear that people want. So whether it's what everybody has or doesn't have, but what are the things that we hear that they want. So again, this is just showing what we already have. I've put a list of our requested facilities from the public, from you guys over the last year or two. And I wouldn't say that they're in any kind of order other than the ones at the top are probably the most requested items. I don't know that they are the priority of the community though. So dog park, obviously, we're working on that right now. Pickleball, we have all heard that you can't build enough pickleball courts. There is a major thing happening in Gilbert. I think they're gonna have something like 60 pickleball courts. And everybody at our conference this week said that's still not, it doesn't matter. people will still ask for more pickleball courts. And again, that doesn't mean we're going to try to have 60 pickleball courts, though. It's just is a growing thing, and it's not just an older generation thing. It is a young generation game. It is very easy to play. I take that back. It is not easy to play, but it is easier than tennis. So a lot of people are saying those folks that did tennis, then later on, this is a little bit shorter of a game. It's a little bit quicker to pick up, and it's more fast-paced and fun. Large splash pad. I've told you already, the number one thing we heard was, why did you build a dog park whenever all we have is this little rinky-dinky splash pad? Well, that was never intended to be a huge splash pad. We have an aquatic center. But we know people want a large splash pad, so it's up here high on the list. It's probably one of our other most requested items. We have a lot of trails. We have some trailheads that are basically the gate and some open space. So we know that that's part of an old master plan with with the multi-use trail system. We will be working with our equestrian groups this fall to be going and meeting with them and talking about where, if you could have trailheads along our multi-use trail system, where do you want us to start? Where are we going to prioritize? So these trailheads mean more of restrooms, a little bit of a covered area for, Jamie, what are they called? The comfort stations. So getting out of the heat. Making sure that there's enough room for trailers to park and that it's secure. So we definitely will be looking at trailheads. Silly Mountain's amenities are an answer to that trailhead question. So Silly Mountain is the most heavily utilized trail network that we have, and it was always lacking a restroom. People were thrilled to have a porta-john. But now the porta-john is old, and we replaced the porta-john, but it's, now we have a porta-john, we want a real restroom. We're not going to get a real restroom, but we're going to get a primitive state park style restroom to have there, and a Ramada area so that this is more like a trailhead so that people can get ready for their hike, or when they come back, be able to drink water and get out of the sun. That'll be our first one that we're working on. We just got another call this week about BMX pump track bike facilities. And then the rest of these are all things that have been mentioned multiple times from different folks. Frank, I put on your miniature golf. Anything that you guys have shared with me, and if I'm missing something, that's what today is about, is to look at this list, ask any questions, and then anything else that you've heard or that you want to see, that we make sure that it's on our list before we start really working on prioritizing.
I think part of it is cost. Cost helps prioritize for sure. If you
Right.
do something cheap, might as well get it done.
Right.
And I don't see anything here too free.
And I would say that this is like the wish list phase, though. So while I 100% agree when it's time to prioritize that'll factor in, what do people really want, though? So like a dog park, to me, every city has one. And it's not just that every city has one. We have a lot of people that want it. We had lots and lots of requests for it. There is a problem with off-leash dogs in our community. There is no place for people to go, and that is a service that is needed in our community, and so it was high on the list. Though it's costly also, and it's going to be costly to maintain, but if it's a high amenity that we need, then, so again, it's, how much is it needed? How much is it a driver of the quality of life here? And then the cost of it are all things that we'll take into consideration later on. How many people want it? So just because I want something doesn't mean enough people in our community are going to use it. We'll have to really identify that. So anything on here that is missing or that you have questions on?
So I think that as we open up more, you're going to look at the difference between the older generation and the younger generation. The batting cages is something that maybe the younger generation may need just to kind of get things going, to include even with miniature golf. I know as with the younger generation getting older, they're going to Mesa, they're going to Tempe, all these other places where it's just us here. So even looking at the possibility of something that would really attract the younger generation would really kind of get them over to Apache Junction instead of them leaving Apache Junction and going to Mesa or going to Tempe.
Frisbee golf would probably fit in with that also, you
Do I
think?
have that on there? Okay, good.
You think Frisbee golf would go along with the younger
I-
generation too?
I think so, yes.
Because we have a lot of open space that's accessible to us.
Okay,
And I would say probably I don't know the expense of a Frisbee golf course, but it's got to be relatively
Much smaller.
small for the payback, for the amount of entertainment provided. I like miniature golf, but compared to the amount of money you'd have to spend for a miniature golf course, you could probably build half a dozen Frisbee courses. And it is picking up with young people. Again, it's getting out. Our climate is not so conducive in the summer, but that's where the large splash pad moves right up
Right.
the priority list too, is this area just calls for any kind of water entertainment.
And the miniature golf thing could be educational too. You could do historical, things, or you could do,
Put a
to make,
theme to it.
But soccer, excuse me, soccer goalie kind of things too, like the batting cage, where they can practice their soccer.
mm-hmm. Well, even with that could lead towards more opportunities to get teams, leagues. So people need somewhere to practice. And if there's nowhere to practice and you have all this time to where you have your teams, it really defeats the purpose, seeing that one may want to get more experience, right? And the only way to do it is, again, batting cages that are around, and some other entities that's on here too.
As you talk about soccer and stuff, so we have a really good amount of multi-purpose fields. And remember that grass is expensive, especially on the north side of town. So on the south side of town, where it's going to be watered by
Audible.
different water, that's different. We have a limit at Prospector Park. We graze the limit every single year. It's tough. And so our soccer goals are up pretty much all year round. Sometimes it might not have the net. We have a lot of people that go out and so soccer's such an easy thing that they can take out a pop-up and practice all of those things. So I think also looking at what do we have, and maybe it's even advertising it in a way so that people know that amenity is available, because I think it's a great suggestion, but I also think we have some places where it can be utilized. Even our softball fields, that's awesome grass. Nobody else is on it during whatever time. There's nothing that prevents anybody from going out there and practicing, soccer or some other sport when there's nobody else using it.
Well, I'm thinking like, you mentioned batting cages. The Prospector Park, or not Prospector, would be, you could put pitching machines out there rather than having to invest in the whole batting cage idea, something to that effect. But, and it all comes together as kind of like, some of these could come together in like an entertainment hub, so to speak. They're all various things, but in one central location.
Definitely.
Bocce ball too, I was thinking of that.
Yeah.
Shuffle, I
I
think,
forgot to add that in. You mentioned that before.
shuffleboard,
So shuffleboard we already have.
how many of those do we have?
Is it,
Let's see,
Jamie,
three
major? Oh, yeah, it's already on here.
Uh-huh.
I will tell you that only because of a very passionate volunteer has anybody ever used our shuffleboard courts. And we can't get rid of them because they were built with Land, Water, and Conservation Fund money. Built the whole city complex park, the one with the shuffleboard courts, the ramada, the playground. So we talked about converting that to a couple of pickleball courts one time because nobody ever uses them. But we have a super passionate volunteer that he works with Matt King, our parks maintenance supervisor, and they refinish them every year. And then we store all the materials, and he teaches lessons, and he has a bunch of things that go on out there. But rarely do we have anybody that just asks to come and use them. We've tried leagues and tournaments, but most of our parks have shuffleboard courts. So the people that really want to play shuffleboard, they have those in their self-contained. Me and Jamie hate going and doing the neighborhood meetings at Roadhaven because they have every recreational amenity. You walk in and it's like they're all doing water aerobics in winter. And They have 80,000 events going on. And it's like, hey, we're here in case you, if it's on the wrong night for you or the wrong day for you, you can come and join us. So I think we're probably okay shuffleboard court-wise.
And I think with the land being annexed, we have a great opportunity that some of these might come to fruition without a whole lot on our part, as long as they are also open to the public. So when you look at some of their pictures of conception, you see more trails, you see more walkways, you see possibly riparian areas, you see possibly a bigger splash pad. Maybe we convince them that that is something that needs to be open and public.
And that is definitely on one of their second or third park list.
So we have an opportunity to maybe capitalize and help them direct the future to help us get some of these goals off of our list, but not out of our pocketbook, so.
And Heather had mentioned about all the little tiny the tiny little parks. So I didn't do a great job of explaining that. And I would encourage you to drive through Eastmark and drive through all of it, or go on and look at Eastmark's map. Like if you just Google Eastmark, it'll show their park maps. So they'll have shuffleboard at one little pocket area, and it's like built into the ground, or they'll have a whole area that's just cornhole boards. You bring your own bags, and people can just play cornhole when they feel like doing it. So, a strip of lawn that somebody could play bocce on, that's way better than us planning something and forcing an area to be something if it can be multiple things that people can do. And so they really do have a great, they know what people are looking for in the market and what some of the families, young and old, are looking for. They do senior communities as much as they do family communities, or young adult communities that don't have kids and want to have fun and have a little bit of nightlife in their area. So none of these are bad ideas, and I think that some of them, like Jamie said, they might work perfectly for us to enhance the parks out in this north area if they're low cost and we can do it. But we need to make sure that it's added to our list with the developers, so that way it's being incorporated into some of those.
And volleyball courts too are fun for families too.
And are you thinking like outdoor?
Outdoor.
Sand? Okay.
I know we do the indoor,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe something outdoor.
Yeah, and we have a couple at Prospector Park, but again, it's a pretty old facility, and sometimes, again, back to, I think we probably don't really market what we have as much. I know when I was in high school, we used them a lot, but it's because I knew they were there. I don't know that people know we have it, and they're in pretty good condition. There might be things that need to make it a better volleyball facility, like sprinkler system, like most places have a sprinkler system that can come on and wet down the sand. There might be some little small things that we can do to make, back when we get to that next conversation about what can we do to our existing facilities to make them more user-friendly. So, yeah. Anything else? Not on this. We saw today, so our fitness staff saw some amazing outdoor cardio equipment that we've always shied away from, because anything with parts in the park that are like mechanical, it's like, no, don't have that, because it's just going to break down and it'll never work. But they're doing so many great things with technology. So like using things that are used in other industries, I'm going to say this totally wrong, but like the oil, I don't know, pumping, I don't know how to explain it. But whatever's out in the middle of whatever, and they have to have, be bulletproof, and bulletproof is the wrong word, but really be able to withstand the elements. And so they're using some of that same technology to put into the equipment. All of the parts that you touch that, you really want it to have a good wear, and is all used, it's like bed liner, stuff you put in your truck bed liner. And so it's just much more durable and scratch-proof and, vandal-proof. The screen for some of these is made out of the same material that ATM screens are done, because ATM screens, I guess, are done way differently than any other kind of screen, because they don't want them to get vandalized or broken. And so, or making it just that it's Bluetooth, so that way all you do is it has a little bit of a receiver in it, and then you use your phone as your device as you're pedaling and things like that. So things that we'd always shied away from before, they're just changing, and we're going to have a lot more opportunities to have those things, in our facilities. Now, they cost as much as an indoor treadmill or whatever, or treadmill's wrong. There's no treadmills for outdoors, and I don't think that'll happen. But ellipticals, I mean, they're in the $8,000 to $13,000 piece kind of thing, but if you only had 3 or 4 of them and it made it so that people got outdoors and was exercising a little bit more, it'd be pretty well worth it. So anything else off the list for now? Again, if you hear of something individually, don't send it to the whole group, but you're welcome to send to me or Jamie any idea that just pops into your head, or you heard somebody asking about it. It'll start getting added to the list as we get going. So again, today is really just about showing you what our inventory is currently, where are some gaps that we see immediately, and then we'll start talking about where do we fit in the national, ranking, state, and also then what are we going to be doing about our existing facilities. That's all that I have, if you guys don't have any questions on that.
So we're down to number 9, and that's call to the public. Do you want me to read that whole section, Liz?
You want to talk? Okay. Nope. You don't need to read it if there's nobody who wants to talk
Okay.
in public.
And number 10 is call for future agenda items. At this time, Parks and Recreation Commissioners or Parks and Recreation staff members are given the opportunity to suggest a topic or topics to be added to the next or any subsequent agenda of the Parks and Recreation Commission. No discussion of the topics suggested are to take place at this time. And does anyone have any items that they would like to recommend adding to the next agenda?
Vice Chair Bory, I would like to add, so we will be voting on so we're going to try to do our voting of officers in December moving forward. Sometimes we've waited till January and it makes a very short term. I think the November meeting is always too early because we'll always have our new commissioner that first meeting, but December. So December, we will be voting on our officers, the chair and the vice chair. And so if individuals are interested in that, I just want to remind you that we'll be we'd like that to be one of the agenda items. If you are interested, or there'll be a nomination process. We'll walk through how that works in December, but be thinking about that. So it's a chair and a vice chair that we elect on that date. Additionally, if we could add, Joel Stern will be coming and doing the parliamentary procedures and ethics and
Open
code of
meeting.
conduct.
Open meeting law.
Yeah, open meeting law. You'll be getting that fresh packet and everything like that, but he'll do that annual review of all of that at that time. So in December, we'll definitely be doing those 2 things. And then the master, so we'll continue this discussion on master plan as well.
Okay, and also the dog park, it will be probably on there too?
Yeah.
Okay.
And any
Anything-
things that don't have a lot, we'll just roll into our facility staff report, but anything that, we really need to get your feedback on, similar to like the rules that we did, we'll make sure that it's an agenda item that is specifically talked about.
Is there anything else? Anybody have anything?
Nothing I can think of.
Nope. Okay. And so then we're down to number 11, selection of meeting dates, times, location, and purpose.
And Judy, you
And-
just have to do the red part.
Okay, and do I have a motion to select future meeting dates?
Madam Vice Chair, I move that the Parks and Recreation Committee hold a regular meeting on December 1st, 2021 at 6 p.m. in the City Council Chambers located at 300 East Superstition Boulevard.
And do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, and Carol, may I have a roll call vote?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Vice Chair Judy Bory.
Yes.
Commissioner D.L. Kine is excused. Commissioner Luciano Buzin is absent. Chairman Wayne Standage is excused. Thank you. It's unanimous.
Okay, then I'll call for adjournment, and I adjourn the meeting at, what is it, 7:46, 47?
We made up for our short meetings the last